Hi YouTube, it's Harley here. Just thought I'd make a quick video of my Wilesco D32 explaining all the different components that make it run. I've owned this engine for about 3 years now, and when I was looking on the market trying to find one of these engines on mainly eBay, I was very curious at the time just how all this actually works. Mainly, the control panel, the simulated governor, the heater configuration, and the water pump. Just so I thought I'd make a video for others sharing what I've learned on this engine. The Wilesco D32 was made, I'm going to say, from mid-50s up until 1981, I believe. Up until the 1960s, they had a gray base, and from the 70s on, it was a blue base. You can tell the year of your Wilesco D32 by underneath the dash cover here. If you pull it off and flip it upside down, there's supposed to be a stamping or written on marker of the year that it was built. Also, the D32 was the largest steam engine / power plant made by Wilesco. The boiler features, it'll hold a liter of water total right to the top. It's the largest boiler made. There's often a lot of confusion with it between the Wilesco D28 as being the same size boiler. However, that's not the case. As you'll notice, the D32's got 5 ports along the bottom here for letting in simulated combustion air, whereas the D28 only has 4 on each side. As well, if you look at the steam dome on the D32, it's relatively in the center of the boiler, whereas the D28, the boiler will be cut off around here, making it more located towards the back. I've got a variable transformer to run it. If you're getting one of these engines or have one, it's pretty well absolutely necessary with this. They made the size of the heaters in this boiler far too big for the size of water volume inside it. It'll make steam like crazy if you just plug it into the wall directly. So right now it's only at 50 volts, so that's a quarter of its steaming capacity, because volts times amps equal watts, and half volts times half amps equal quarter watts. Also, if you notice, this is originally a 220 volt 1500 watt model from Wilesco, the way most of them came. There were some made that were 110 volt models, but they're quite sought after in North America. Most of them are 220. Some people go and buy voltage converters for them, but that's not necessary, as the 220 volt models from Wilesco came. The 2 heaters inside it were wired in series for 220 volt, and they're wired in parallel for 110 volt. And there's a junction box right below the base of the boiler that you just have to switch a few wires on to convert it from 110 to 220, and then change your plug to accept it into whatever power you're using, whether it be 110 or 220. However, having said that, that's by no means a guarantee that what you do with your engine will work out. I'm just telling you what I did on mine to work. You must be comfortable doing some electrical wiring on your own to do that yourself. So the steam leaves the top of a simulated steam dome here, travels down the pipe. This is your steam regulator right here. This is a pressure gauge showing the steam pressure in the boiler. It's just about at 1 bar, so that's 15 psi, or pretty close to it. Also, this is an oiler. It's simulated as a valve knob, but it is just a fancy oiler cap. From there, the steam travels through one of these 2 steam pipes here into the engines. The exhaust is routed through into a main T here, travels down inside the base, out through this pipe right here. and up into the stack. The D32 was the only engine back in the day of the 60s and 70s to feature a smoking chimney. Many models do now, but not ones from back in the day. So the exhaust travels up this pipe here and goes down through this other one lower down here. The chimney sits in a cup on this to collect all the water. We'll spin and see what happens. Also on the control panel you have the tachometer here, which is just it's simulated, it's not an actual, it's just a model version of a tachometer. If you turn the engine speeder up or down, it will move. So my light bulb's burnt out on the generator. Take the belt out. Sorry about that, folks. I was wanting the generator to run for you. Get it running again. And having two engines set up in a twin configuration on it, you'll notice if I put this engine to midpoint on the crank right there, this engine's at the end of its stroke, so either one of the two engines is always on a power stroke, regardless of the flywheel position. So any point in where it's at, by opening the steam valve, it'll start on its own. Now underneath the base of the D32s, there's two great big trays sitting in here. One right here is for your condensate. Gets collected in from the drain under the stack. And the other one here is for your fresh boiler feed water. And they provided a line so that you can see it pumping when it's not being routed to the boiler. This is your feed water pump right here. It's controlled off a eccentric on the crankshaft. And I believe the actual inside piston of the feed water pump is just a slide valve on a smaller Wilesco engine, such as a D10. This is the suction line right here on the bottom of the pump, the one that comes in on the very bottom. Now, I haven't had one of these apart before, but I'm assuming that there's going to be 3 check valves inside here. One on the bottom for the water to come in to get locked in. The water is then sucked in and compressed right here in this chamber on the side. Then there'll be a check valve right in here again by the this other valve. And as well there'll be a check valve on top. This valve can be used to drain the water in the reservoir tank if required. Other than that, it really doesn't serve much of a purpose. As you can see by the recirc line that the water pump is working. That's this line right here taking off the pump, that you can tell that it's working. However, if you go and close the valve, now there's no water returning back to the reservoir. Let's get a level on our boiler here. It's just below half a glass. I'm going to turn our transformer up a little bit too, as we've got slightly warm water going into the boiler now. That'll be cooling it off. And this pipeline on top here, is what's leaving the feed water pump, running down the line here and into the boiler. It enters the boiler at about a 4 o'clock position down inside the firebox. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know if you can see it there. It's way in the back, amongst all the heater wiring. Yeah, like I said before, the D32s and the D28s for sure can be easily switched from 110 to 220 volt, as I have both models and have done so. However, there's no guarantee that you can do that yourself. That's solely what I did with my engines. I'm not responsible for anything that you do on yours. Also right here, there's a nut here on top of the feed water pump gland. I usually just put some heavy marine grease or something in there to seal it, not steam oil. Also, the Wilesco D32 was the only engine to feature a clutch mechanism built into it from the factory. Right now I have the clutch disengaged. That's this control lever right here. It travels to move this spring-loaded base here on the line. Shut this off for a second. As you'll see, it's pretty ingenious when it was designed about how when it's freewheeling, there's actually no pressure being put on the disc that's rotating, so therefore there's no friction or stress put on this when it's in neutral, so to speak. When you move this, it's forced against the clutch disc material here, this black hard material, and that allows it to carry the power through and out to the transmission. Oh, I forgot to talk about the governor here more for you guys. So it's just a simulated toy governor. It's not the real thing. It doesn't control the engine speed whatsoever. It's just if you push down on this, it'll actuate the gauge. Pressure's getting up there, so I'll run her a little bit. How's the water level? The feed water pump is pumping into the boiler right now. Also, I've hooked it up to my little workshop I built for it. Push the clutch in. Also, I got a Blue Thunder generator off eBay. I haven't decided if I'm going to mount it just down solidly yet, or I also have the grinder and the hammer works as well that I could mount in place for where the generator is. Trying to get it to run for you guys. I'm really impressed with how this generator works. It's very efficient at low speeds, creates lots of power. see with the generator on it, it's pretty hard on the rest of the transmission workshop to keep going, but this does okay. Take that off for now. Turn the feed water pump off. It's back recirculating again. Slow it down a little bit. I don't really like running my engines too fast. It's kind of pointless and just wears them out, but to each his own. One last unique feature I'll point out on the D32s that I've noticed on other D32s as well is the different types of engine frames here, how you look at the different crosshatch patterns. The engine on the right and the engine on the left both have different patterns on them, which mine's not the only one that's like that, but I guess that's just a classic feature of a toy maker who's got some spare parts kicking around and throw it together. But I like it. Well, that pretty much concludes my video. Thanks for watching.